Sa malunggay and virgin coconut oil, manuhot-suhot kini. Calabo Premium Rub, ang sulbad sa pingot nga ilong. Calabo Premium Rub is a quality product of Jester Marketing.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk. Today, we shed light on assistive technologies available that can significantly improve the lives of persons with disabilities. Let's talk about technologies available for mobility. Many Filipinos, both old and young, endure fractures, injuries, and health conditions that may lead to amputation or even loss of limb function. On the other hand, some are born with disabilities that may prevent them from walking properly or walking altogether. Doc Penny, what are some of the technologies that are available in the Philippines that will address mobility, and how do they work?
So actually, there are a lot of assistive technology for mobility. And you could have this talking phones or self-directed devices which have sensors that would assist for mobility and orienteering. And then we have the basic canes, crutches, walkers, for those who have still some level of function with their legs, no? And we go down to the level of your wheelchairs. The wheelchairs could be basic for those who just have orthopedic problems, or it could be supportive for those who have stroke or with neuromuscular disorders. And for people who are really paralyzed from the neck down, or would have some difficulty in control of the wheelchair, then we also have what we call our motorized wheelchairs. So these are the most common assistive technology for mobility for people who have intact limbs. For those who have a limb which is absent, whether it's in the upper or lower extremity, we have what we call the prosthesis or the artificial limbs. So by far, those are the common assistive technology for people with mobility disability.
Dr. Penny, let's talk a little bit about canes and crutches because this is very common, especially habang tumatanda or even if they have a disability. Could you tell us what exactly are they for and how important is it that someone gets the proper equipment for this?
So everything should be customized. So we just don't buy over the counter the cane or the crutch. People might be skeptical, but we actually measure the length of the cane and then we fit it to the one who would use it. There's a certain degree or angle of the elbow that is required and a certain distance from the foot that is required also when you are walking with the crutch or the cane. So it is very essential and very important for safety and functionality that we are able to measure and customize the cane or the crutch for the one who will use it.
Now, Dr. Penny, you mentioned about prosthetic limbs. There's a lot of mystery about this because a lot of people, the first thing they will think about when it comes to prosthesis is this is very expensive. How important is having a prosthetic limb either for the leg or for the arm? How can Filipinos be qualified for a prosthetic limb if they indeed need one?
There are two purposes for your prosthetic limb. That is for cosmesis and more importantly, body image completion, particularly for the upper limb because it's exposed. No, it's a part of the body which is readily seen. For the lower extremities, the artificial limb or the prosthesis is more essential for walking. So these are the two main goals while we use a prosthesis. As for affordability, because of the establishment of the Philippine School of Prosthetics and Orthotics, and because of the field health packages for all types of prosthesis and orthosis, the prosthesis now for upper and lower limbs have become accessible and also affordable. So what is essential right now is just for people to be more aware of the services that are available and where they would go to in order to avail of this prosthesis.
The area in our body which produces the voice, the larynx, or commonly known as the voice box, dito nanggagaling ang boses ng isang tao. But because of maybe disease, malignancy, or maybe trauma, this could be injured and the person loses the ability to produce sound or have a voice. Are there options as well, Dr. Martinez, for those who have lost their voice?
They have a way of a technique of allowing the muscles of the neck to vibrate, the muscles of the esophagus to move, so they produce voice. No, at the same time, you can actually use a gadget. No, there is what you call an electrolytic. So it's a gadget that you put on the neck, so it will enhance the vibration, and you produce a more reasonable type of voice. No, now during the surgery, you can create a connection between the windpipe and into the esophagus using a prosthesis also. So with that, we call that the Blom-Singer prosthesis. You don't really have to use any gadget anymore, because the air will be diverted from the windpipe into that hole. It's connected to the esophagus, and then you can produce good voice also. So there are certain surgical procedures that will actually create that also. No.
Now, a common disability all over the world includes heart problems. In fact, heart disease is the leading cause of death. Now, your doctor might prescribe a pacemaker for those with certain heart conditions. Dr. Penny, let's talk about pacemakers. Maraming sa ating mga viewers ang nakarinig nito, but when is this recommended?
Basically, the pacemaker makes sure that the heartbeat is good enough that would allow the recipient to be functional for all his activities of daily living. However, I know that there are certain precautions or risks that are associated with the use of the pacemaker, and it would really be best that a proper evaluation would be done by the cardiologist and the cardiovascular surgeon prior to undergoing the procedure.
Many people suffer from communication problems, but there are devices and apps that can help with speech as well as language. Now, what are these assistive technologies? More on this when we return. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement, gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement, ato ni Bay.
Maayong balita sa tanan sa atong panginahanglan sa panimalay, mga gamit, ingon man mga dekorasyon, pwede na natong mapalit diha sa Wellington Bazaar. Anausab sa Wellington Bazaar ang mga bistidahon, karsunison, plain t-shirt, plastic chair, floor mat, mantel, banig, folding bed, habol, mosketero, trapal, lideret, basketball, stuffed toys ug mga dulaan sa bata. Ang Wellington Bazaar ana magalagad kanato sa Dalan Kaimo ning Dakbayan sa Surigao. Wellington Bazaar, gikan sa mga kawani og tigdumala sa Wellington Bazaar. Mayong adlaw alang kaninyo. Wellington Bazaar, sukion ta sa kanunay.
GSM Blue ang kasama.
Okay lang to make mistakes kung sa sarili totoo at hindi fake.
Drink responsibly. Choose to chill and enjoy the true flavors of Mojito, Margarita, Gin Pomelo, and Cosmopolitan with GSM Blue. Drink responsibly.
Uy, day! Naunsa man ka, day?
Day, kanang lisod na mga kakita, day. Uy,
Sus, naunsa ba ka? Uy nga, katong niaging bulan. Okay pa man ka. Naunsa day karon?
laot siguro ni si unit aning cellphone kanang si computer, day.
Da, mo lagi na akong ingon ba? Huy, day, nakoy balita para sa imuha. Gamit og Lutein Plus, uy.
Ah, Lutein Plus?
Oh, tungod ang Lutein Plus, day, duna kini 13 ka ingredients. Hindi lang kini para sa mata, kundi sa imuhang tibuok lawas. Nga maka-assist pod sa imuhang anxiety o depression.
Ang Lutein Plus o sa ka-award-winning brand nga gikan pa sa New Zealand.
The award-winning supplements from Clean Green New Zealand Omega Plus support sa heart and blood system. Ang Lutein Plus ay 13 ka mga ingredients lakip ng vitamins A and C. Dili lamang kung maradyaw sa itong pananaw, nagsuporta sa bini sa ato intiro lawas ning panahon nga jara kita kuman sa COVID-19 pandemic. Kinahanglan magpabilin kitang himsog inom sa Lutein Plus, Omega Plus and Primrose Plus Soft Gel. Inintanan available dia sa New Family Drug, Palma Drug sa Aquarian Pharmacy.
Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Maayo kini alang sa mga naganto sa high blood. Kung perming kasakit ang imong tangkugo, kung masobraan ka og kaon sa mga lamiang pagkaon, basig ning tukar na ang imong high blood. Pagtumar higala og kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Usa ka capsule bago mo gaon aron siguradong protektado kang kanunay. Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Masaligan og siguradong epektibo batok sa high blood. Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric. Kalabo with garlic plus lemongrass and turmeric is a quality product of Jester Marketing.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk. Many people around the world suffer from some form of communication problem, but there are many devices available today to help these individuals communicate effectively. Doc Penny, what are some of these technologies? And could you tell us a little bit about how they can help those who are visually impaired, hearing impaired, as well as voice impaired?
So in terms of communication for the visually impaired, we have the Braille. And then we also have applications in the cell phones wherein text could be converted to speech or speech can be converted into text. For our hearing impaired, we actually have the very basic sign language. But recently, they have developed a glove wherein which you would make motions and the sensors in the glove are able to convert it into speech or text also.
Now, one of the more common ways for the hearing impaired to communicate is through sign language, either those who are hearing impaired or vocally impaired. Dr. Martinez, let's talk about sign language for those who have lost their ability to hear or their ability to speak. Do we have our own version here in the Philippines? How can are there areas where people can learn sign language?
Yeah, we have the so-called Filipino sign language. No, this is something that was developed, and the proponents of this one are based at the institution in the University of the Philippines, the Filipino sign language, and the group also from St. Benilde actually were instrumental in coming up with this Filipino sign language. But for purposes of international communication, then the more common will be the American Sign Language.
Now, Dr. Martinez, in this day and age of gadgets, cell phones, smartphones, iPad, tablets, has the communication skills when it comes to those who are hearing impaired or even speech impaired, has it changed for the better? Is it easier now for people to communicate?
Gadgets have revolutionized communication. So for people, for example, instead of using sign language, basically they just text the message to another individual. So whether you are hearing impaired or not, then you can easily do that. As mentioned by Penny, when you try to communicate, the words that you say will be translated in real time into text. So a hearing impaired individual can benefit from that. So as I said, communication skills and because of technology that's drastically improved.
Every day we come up with new technologies to create an inclusive space for each person living with a disability. Dr. Penny, before we go, do you have any advice on how can we best enable the disabled?
What is very important is for people to understand that assistive technology does not ensure that you would be functional and be able to safely. It is very important that with the crutches, the cane that are given to you, the prosthesis provided in the wheelchairs, you should also undergo training in its use. Not only of the person who would use it, but also the family and the caregiver, because this would mean also aftercare, maintenance, and proper utilization of the assistive technology. So this is very essential. Assistive technology plus training and or rehabilitation.
And Dr. Martinez, before we go, do you have any advice for our viewers?
Hearing disability is an invisible disability, so we should not take it for granted. We should know how to deal with the hearing impaired, especially for elderly, because we have to realize that we will get there at some point in time. Okay, so gadgets are something that will help us, but we make sure that we be patient enough to benefit from these gadgets. And when it comes to noise-induced hearing loss, it is irreversible, but definitely preventable. So we know how to protect ourselves so that this will not reach to a point where we have difficulty communicating.
And with that, I'd like to thank Rehab Medicine Specialist Dr. Josephine Bundok and ENT Head and Neck Surgeon Dr. Norberto Martinez for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate your time very much. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez. Thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk. We'll see you again next time.